Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Woke Autopsy with me, Martae Ruelas, a.k.a. Mighty Mouse, according to my guest here today, and my illustrious host,
KEWL Vic. How's it going?
Good stuff. KEWL Vic, a part of the KEWL V1C, according to other proponents of this station as well.
Yeah, KEWL V1C.
Yeah, KEWL V1C. Thank you all for tuning in today. We have another exciting episode with an illustrious guest today. I gotta do some reading because I have an intro for this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Woke Autopsy, where we cut through the illusions and expose what really builds or breaks a man. Tonight's guest is no stranger to the abyss. Not going to say his name. I'm going to let him introduce himself. The founder of Wrong to Strong, born in Chicago's brutal South Side, scarred by childhood trauma, running drugs by the age of 11, entangled in gangs and cartel shadows. He landed in a Mexican prison at 17, sentenced to 15 years with no parole in one of the most dangerous systems on earth. He survived over 17 years total behind bars across the U.S. and Mexican hellholes, facing riots, addiction, and the daily grind of survival. But he didn't stay broken. He clawed his way out through raw discipline, unbreakable faith, and sheer will, emerging to become a transformation coach, certified fitness and mindset specialist, speaker, studio owner, husband, and renowned warrior. The guy's a true warrior, ladies and gentlemen. Through Wrong to Strong, he mentors ex-inmates, prevents the next generation of fallen, and turned pain into purpose with programs like USP Max and Married to Salvage. This is the living embodiment of redemption. A man who went from cartel shadows to prison yards to building a movement that crushes excuses and rebuilds lives. He has a national movement, ladies and gentlemen. This is big stuff right here. No handouts, no victim narratives, just hard truth, faith, grit, and results. Buckle up, because when this man steps to the mic, the woke playbook gets dissected. Give it up for the unstoppable JC. What's up, JC? Welcome to Woke Autopsy, man. Good to have you here, man.
Going.
Oh, man, thank you. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, good to see you, man. I know that we go back a little bit, a ways back, so it's like, I mean, you're a really compelling man. Just going over your history, this is deep, man. Like, you don't play when it comes to turning lives around. And not only this, you're not a joke when it comes to your history or past. Like, I would normally write a Hollywood script about an action hero or maybe some blood in, blood out story, but it does nothing to match the life that you've lived. The life that you've lived is crazy. It's just insane. So take us back to your early years on the south side of Chicago. What was your home life? As a matter of fact, let me stop asking questions. Who are you and what do you do? Let's get to it.
First of all, you know, I'm here by the grace of God. Everything that I've done and everything that I'll do has been by His grace, and you know, I give Him everything. My name's JC, man. I am the CEO and founder of Wrong to Strong, a movement that started as a fitness journey at first, but then transitioned into going into prisons and helping the youth and mentoring men and women and just teaching plain good old-fashioned discipline, you know, to change your life. Some discipline needs to happen, and that's just what I'm in the business of transformation.
That's good, man.
Nice.
That's good. So I do have some questions, though. I mean, from your profound childhood trauma, I've heard a little bit about this. I've heard you in person talk about some of this stuff. We're not going to go too deep into this because we only got like 45 minutes or an hour. But from all the street gang life in Chicago to cartel involvement, the cartels even, am I right?
Yeah, Yeah,
right?
I got into the gang life, and I got into the dark world pretty deep, and I hung around with some pretty dangerous people at a very young age, and kind of just led the ropes for me to end up in that area, you know.
Yeah, that's crazy. Cartels to extended incarceration in the U.S. and Mexican prisons. I tell you what, I mean, a lot of people can talk about surviving a U.S. prison, but a Mexican prison, that's got to be something else, man. That's got to be rough.
Yeah.
What I do have to ask a question. There has to be like a distinction, like a difference between the two. What's the main difference between a Mexican prison and a U.S. prison?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, if you don't have family in Mexico, you know, you're doing hard time. You know, you don't if you don't have people bringing you clothes, bringing you food, you know, the essentials that you get here in the U.S., it's going to be a really hard time. It's expensive to be in prison over there. A lot of violence, a lot of drugs. Um, I mean, I was there for 5 minutes. I had already gotten stabbed for my shoes.
Holy crap.
It was tough, man. It was tough just to witness all the violence on daily basis. That's I always tell people that it did something to most of the Americans that were on that plane when they transferred us.
That's crazy. That just sounds like the beginning of some crazy cartel movie. Hearing about
Yeah.
this, like you got stabbed your shoes in 5 minutes. What happened to the leading up to
Yeah,
this? Yeah, I want to hear
I was
about
there
that.
for about 5 minutes. They opened the door and they put me in, and next thing you know, I was on the floor, almost dying.
So, did they have medical come in and help you out, or anybody come in, or did your cellie kind of have to patch you up? How did that work out?
Well, you know, in the prison in Mexico, there's like really no staff. There's really no guards. So like I kind of just woke up in the hospital and they kind of patched me up, and I ended up, you know, meeting some people there that were with the people that I was working with. So then after that, it was smooth sailing for a little bit, you know, just seeing all the violence. But I did all right until I did it. You know, being young and being a knucklehead, you make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, that does sound rough, especially getting out there at a Mexican prison. The radical transformation through faith and discipline, that's got to be something else. And now you're the founder of Wrong to Strong, which is a national movement. I've seen this before in person. I remember just talking to the ladies and gentlemen. I was at an expo. They had me on stage with a bunch of pro athletes, maybe some Arizona Cardinals, some bodybuilders, people like this. And I had gotten off a stage and I was supposed to be at this man's booth. So me and him go back, and I'm also an avid supporter of Wrong to Strong. I think I still have like 2-year T-shirts from the booth too. I was signing autographs at the booth, just knowing that I had a man behind me that could deal with cartels, drug lords, gang members. I felt pretty safe, to be honest with you. And you back there managing everything. How did you build this empire? How did you build this whole movement from the ground up? How did this all start?
You know, I tell people honestly, when I got home from prison in 2017, I just kind of came home with what prison had taught me: discipline, control movement. So I just got home. I didn't have a plan. I knew that I wanted to be a sponsored athlete by 5%. I accomplished it. I knew, like, I was just accomplishing small little things as I went, and things just started happening. Like I just was crazy enough to believe in myself. I always tell people, you know, I'm still crazy enough to believe in myself now, and it's just on a different level now because I'm more mature. But it was hard work. I mean, we know this. Discipline is hard work because you see other people doing other stuff, and you're like, oh man, you know, I'm living a boring life, but it pays off at the end.
I'm pretty sure having a boring life is better than how you grew up. The next question I'm going to ask is your early childhood and your trauma. Take us back to your early years of the South Side of Chicago. What was your home life like as a kid, and how did abandonment by your father at age 4 change things for you and your family?
when my dad left, it significantly impacted me because you know, as kids you kind of blame everything on yourself, and him disappearing, you know, opened up the door for that predator that came into our lives. And you know, from the age of 4 to 9, being drowned, being sexually molested, being locked in that room, pretty much treated like an animal. You know, I tell people I started working out at age 9 because I wanted to get bigger, and I wanted to become dangerous. You know, to tell you the truth, so people couldn't hurt me no more. And it's why, like, I got involved with the gangs at such a young age, and why I became like a prospect for the cartel at such a young age, at 16.
So you were
And
forced
I
to,
tell people, you know,
yeah.
sorry, you know, I tell people I wasn't a killer, man. I wasn't a violent dude. I just was trying to survive. That was it.
So do you think that you had to kind of be a little bit of a monster to keep other people safe, maybe yourself safe?
Well, I had to pretend to be a monster because, like,
Pretend to be a monster. Okay.
I had been hurt. I had been hurt a lot.
Yeah. So what pushed you towards the streets and gang life so early? Like, maybe your involvement at age 9, was there a specific moment or a person that made you join a gang? Like feeling like it was the only path to protection or belonging?
Well, I felt like I had gained a family that was going to protect me now, because you know they surrounded me. They gave me somewhere to go. They gave me colors. They gave me a handshake. They gave me something to fight for. You know, uh, I always say a very dangerous man is one that doesn't have nothing to fight for, because then he fights for everything. You know, so
Yeah.
I felt at home with them.
Yeah. I've never heard that before. A dangerous man is a man that doesn't have anything to fight for. I like that. I'm probably going to have to use that in the future. So my next question is gang life. So in reference to like the gang life, when you think about this, the cartel involvement and, you know, your descent by your mid-teens, you were deeply involved in gang activity and then brought into a cartel family at 16, from what I read. Walk us through what the world looked like day to day and what drew you in deeper despite all the risks that you had to deal with.
I mean, to be honest with you, what drew me deeper into that life was getting that pat in the back, telling me Bob when I would make sure that everything got done right. Being 16 and making, you know, all that money. You know, what 16-year-old kid's running around with $60,000 in his pocket? You know, I became a ticking time bomb. You know, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, 60,000 isn't chump change running around at 16, 17. That's crazy. That's usually people will call you a baller. They call you a baller if you're in the streets carrying around that amount of money. Like that's either you asking for trouble or somebody else is asking for trouble. That's one way or the other. So you brought up the money. So greed and getting sloppy led to your arrest. This is what I read online. From what you said, greed and getting sloppy led to your arrest in Mexico at 17 for international drug trafficking. What was the moment of getting caught like? How did the reality of a 15-year sentence or with no parole hit you? How did that feel like when they told you that?
I mean, honestly, I always tell people the most impactful moment for me was when I got arrested at the checkpoint, because I got arrested by the military, and it wasn't nice. You know, I got beat up, and it gave me a little bit of PTSD. It was a little intense, and after that, the 4 years that I spent kind of like in the prison, I don't know. It kind of felt like it wasn't true. I don't know, like unreal. But the sloppy part really, I believe, came because I got really deep into my addiction because of all the stuff that I was witnessing while I was over there. You know, by this time, I had already seen so many of my friends get killed, ran over, shot, heads get blown off. And then when I went to Mexico, it transitioned into a darker, I don't know, just seeing things no human should see. and my addiction got really bad, and I started getting really sloppy. I started doing a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, and it's why I believe I got caught.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question. So, JC, you spent over 17 years across more than 25 prisons in the U.S. and Mexico. That's a lot. What were some of the harshest realities of prison life in those systems that you learned? And how did the environments differ between the two countries? That was my previous question I asked you. Like, what were the realities like in prison in Mexico and the prisons in the U.S.? Were there big, you said there were big differences, meaning like if you're poor in prison in the Mexico, you're screwed. And then you were talking a little bit about that.
I mean, the violence is pretty much, we have a lot of violence here in the American prisons. People are getting killed here on a daily basis too. It's that's the same in Mexico. The only thing that is different is that there's a lot of drugs available in the Mexican drugs and the Mexican prisons. In American prisons, it's very, very limited. Everything is very, very limited. It's why it's so expensive. But I mean, if you were to ask me, honestly, hey, if you're gonna do a life sentence, where do you want to do it? I would choose Mexico.
Wait, what? Hold on. You said you would choose Mexico over the U.S.? Wait, I gotta hear why you would choose to be in a Mexican prison over U.S. prison.
Yeah.
You just work yourself to having a little bit. I mean, one, you get conjugal visits in Mexico. You don't get those here in the United States. All right. So
I didn't know that.
I'm going to prison in Mexico. My wife is moving to Mexico with me.
Yeah.
It's just little things that as a prisoner, you're gonna kind of weigh things out. In the United States, it's like you try to get to a yard where they have ice cream. That's as good as it gets.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. So is that the only reason why just conjugal visits? The reason why you would say I would choose a Mexican prison over a U.S. prison?
No, just food, just a lot of little perks. I would be able to probably open up a store in there.
Oh, wow.
It would just be a different way. You could do a lot with some dollars over there,
Oh, okay. So there's a little bit more freedom over there, leeway. Over here, a little bit more strict, you would say? A lot more strict?
Yes, sir.
With the controlled movement and all that stuff. Okay. All right. Well, it makes a little bit of sense because before I was thinking, Vic, I was like, there's no way that I would be caught in a Mexican prison. They'd be trying to put all kinds of burritos in me and stuff. And then I'm not talking about Mexican food, but like it would just be a bad situation. I was like, no, I would not want to go. But, now come to think about this, like I didn't think about that. I didn't know that they had conjugal visits over there, that there's probably a little bit more leeway with cash over there. But I do have another question I want to ask. Turning points and transformation amid all that time locked up, JC, what were the darkest moments that you thought escape or change was impossible? And what small spark or person finally cracked through that hopelessness that you had? What was the small sense of hope that you had during this whole time?
Honestly, I tell people, since I've been a little kid, and all that bad stuff was happening to me, I kind of always smiled when there was nothing to smile about. I always laughed when there was nothing to laugh about. I call it my superpower. It's what kept me from going crazy. It's what kept me from a lot of things. And throughout my whole prison bid, a lot of people didn't like me because of that. They thought I was crazy. They just thought that, I was annoying because I would try to laugh. Sometimes I sound crazy, and I probably am a little bit. But, it's what got me through those hopeless moments.
So
Makes sense.
I remember back in the day, I was I'm planning on trying to compete again. We're very familiar with the bodybuilding community, and you know about Rich Piana back in the day, right? Remember him? He was a mutual friend of ours. I think he was a friend of yours too. I used to go to California and visit him all the time. And I knew that he had a bunch of tats, and he surrounded himself by a bunch of Hispanic people who had a lot of tats. So whenever I went to California, I hit Rich up, and then we hang out and we probably go eat some food. He always wanted to eat and train all the time when we came over there. But I noticed that you loved his movement a lot. And then I noticed that a lot of like his themes were a part of the Wrong to Strong movement, because for one, there was a lot of discipline in his movement. Your movement has a lot of discipline too. And it went to like a lot of training, workouts, things like that. The difference between your movement and his is that there's more of a faith-based principle, like a Christian foundation with yours. So when I talk about this, faith seems to be your central story. So when did you encounter Jesus in a way that truly shifted your identity from wrong to pursuing strong? What changed that for you with Christ?
I was at the gym in 2019. My wife walked into the gym. She has been the biggest mentor that God has sent my way. And she was always happy. She was always in a good mood. And it used to get on my nerves. It used to make me mad because I was like, nobody could be in a good mood like that all the time. So it would make me mad. I would be like, stop faking it. Like, and she's the first one that called me out. She was like, what is this wrong to strong? And I said, man, look at me. I'm wrong and I'm strong. And she was like, she was like, it's got to be more than that, JC. And I was like, nah, fool, you just don't know. And she got to meet the little kid that was able to talk to her about all that bad stuff that happened to him. She got to meet the grown man with all the PTSD. She got to meet the JC that was raped, the JC that was molested, the JC that saw death. She got to meet that dude, and for 2 years, it almost broke her. If we're gonna be transparent and real, it almost broke her. And on November 6th, 2021, I got on my knees for the first time in my life, because I never searched for God the whole time I was in prison. I thought I was strong enough to endure anything. And I got on my knees, man, and my life completely changed from that day on. I cried like a little baby for hours, and it was very, very, I don't care to explain it because it was like supernatural to me, at least. But I felt like I got a heart transplant that night. And when I got up, Wrong to Strong had changed to a whole different brand, a whole different calling, a whole different mission. I felt that I was called to be a warrior for God. And I started going into the prisons that a lot of people don't go into, the level 4 yards, the max yards, yards where I'm allowed to walk, because a lot of people can't walk into those yards because people that I've lived my life, most of them have cooperated, have debriefed. So they're not able to walk into a lot of those yards. So God has opened up yards for me to be able to walk in and be able to use my pain as a classroom and be able to help people weaponize their pain and become, warriors for God.
So I got a question, because that's very interesting. I remember I was messaging you and you said, no, I can't do it on this day because I go into the prison to talk to, and I'm like, wow, this guy's still doing this. That is crazy. So I do have a question. JC, you've described turning pain into purpose. How did fitness, mindset work, and discipline become a part of your rebuilding process while you were still inside? How did that evolve once you were released from prison?
I know you guys are familiar with that motivational video by that Navy SEAL, making your bed in the mornings.
I've heard that before. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, when I got out of prison, it was one of the very first YouTube videos that I listened to, and I thought to myself, I was like, wow, I'm ahead of the game, because by then I had been incarcerated so long that I used to make my bed in the morning. My shoes used to be shined. My shirt was tucked in.
No,
I was a model citizen. You know what I mean? So like, I was like, well, I'm way ahead of the game of everybody. So like, from that moment on, it just clicked, and I said, okay, the discipline that I learned in prison, I'm gonna keep getting up at 2 a.m, going to bed at 7, and I'm gonna keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and let's see what happens. And 7 years later, I own a studio across the street from the gym where I started working when I got out of prison.
That's cool. That's cool as hell. I remember I had met you, and you were so heavy into fitness during this time. And I was like, already, I've been in the industry. I've been competing as a pro athlete for forever. And I met you, and I was like, this kid is really hungry to be really disciplined, strong. He also looks at Rich Piana too as a good person. I look at these people too, but I'm like, this kid, he's really eager to get into this industry. So I do want to ask a question though, the rebuilding process to this. Now you used to work at the gym, but now you have the studio now you're helping. And I just recently saw this. You help people with podcasts now. You're helping out to help other people grow. So life after release, JC, and building Wrong to Strong, coming out after so many years, what were the biggest culture shocks? Like, what was different about coming out, or the battles with re-entering society? How did that navigate you building relationships, especially with people that you want to be family with? Like, because I'm pretty sure the culture in prison and the culture after was different. How did that like shock you coming back into society? Was that different, or was it crazy getting reintegrated into society again?
No, it was hard, man. I came home very violent, without even knowing it. I had to learn to be a good person, bro. I had to learn to follow rules out here. I had to learn to not be a thug, because I tell people I didn't pretend to be a thug. I was a thug 24/7. Like I graduated to the level of prison because of that reason. So like it was very, very hard for me, but I knew that it had to start with morals. I know it had to start with small changes in my life. I mean, like I said, my wife was my biggest mentor, man. She taught me a lot about forgiveness, empathy, different stuff that I'm still learning to this day, man. Even us getting a dog was part of my therapy. Learning to love and be loved. And now, I can't keep my dogs off of me. I mean, my dog in the morning and my cat. It's like, life is good, man. Life is good when you learn to heal as a man, because I believe men heal different than women.
Yeah, I believe that men and women are ontologically different. There's a big difference between us. And I do believe that we're different. I'm glad that you see this and you're not buying into the whole transformer garbage of men can be women and women can be men. I'm glad you don't buy into that. So I do want to say this. You're probably the most sane person that was involved in the cartels that I can ever bring on the shows. There's a person that was a cartel drug lord that I know. He's too irrational and too messed up in the head to ever interview him. You're the closest, most sane person that I could bring in that was associated with cartels, drugs, coming up in with the harshest past that you've had. It's just insane. So what inspired you to found Wrong to Strong? Because it had to come from somewhere. What was it? A specific like mindset, a promise that you made to yourself in prison, or maybe seeing too many guys cycle back in? Did that change you and make you want to build Wrong to Strong? What made you want to build this?
I mean, honestly, me branding myself, I learned that from Rich. I give him full credit for that. He was the number one person that told me to brand myself, always brand yourself, brand yourself. And when I was in prison for that violation, I walked around the yard writing down. I still have the notebooks where I wrote down all the names. And Wrong to Strong just kind of stuck. And like I said, when I first came home, it was a fitness brand. I did have a clothing line, a supplement line. We were at fitness expos. I was competing in powerlifting events. I flew out to California to work out with Big Boy and the String Cartel, and it took off that way. But when I started going into the prisons and I started seeing the old JCs, when I started meeting the JCs inside the prisons, that's when something shifted for me, and I said, man, let's create this brand for people inside prison. And my mentor was like, wait, dude, you just created a brand inside prison? I was like, yeah. I was like, they need something to fight for too, and ever since then, man, I've been traveling the US, going to different prisons. I go to Texas next week. I'll be in Houston, Texas. I'll be in 6 prisons over there. I've been to Florida. I'm going to North Carolina. It's a trip, man, to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that is what I really wanted to have you on this podcast. That's the real reason why I wanted to have you on this podcast, is because we've got to change the recidivism that happens in prison. We have to change this mentality because there's far too many women that are raising boys and not enough men in these boys' lives. That's what happens. A lot of women, they're initiating divorce at high rates. That's what's happening. They're kicking these men out because the courts are unfair when it comes to men. I can agree with that. Maybe you can agree with this. But that's the thing, though, is this leads men to going into prison at such a high rate. Vic has covered this topic so many different times on his podcast. He covers debates. I do debates against feminists, people that think that men shouldn't rule the house. Men should be beneath women. I think that we could be side by side. We're equal to value. I do agree with that. But I do think that we're missing a lot of men in the household. I'm an example of a man that wasn't in the household. You're an example of a man that wasn't in the household, but we were able to change our lives. And you're a magnificent example of what you can do if you're disciplined, you have faith in God, and also you have a crazy story. We're going to get into this. So tell us about your signature programs like USP Max. I'm just hearing about this. Married to Savage is Married to a Savage, or La Vida Sin Reglas? What do they actually involve, and who are they designed to reach out to?
La Vida Sin Reglas is I got too much stuff going on.
Yeah,
La Vida Sin Reglas is
That's a lot of stuff, bro.
You see, guys, to really try to explain everything, I would have to step back and say, like, we're about to open up a halfway house that's going to be a Wrong to Strong training center, a ranch up north that will be able to send people up there north. The programs inside prison is the USP Max. Married to a Savage is stuff that me and my wife do together.
That sounds crazy.
She has a program. La Vida Sin Reglas is a Spanish podcast that I have where I share crime stories. The studio has really helped me evolve into doing different stuff because I have the cameras, I have the studio, I have movie sets. So I'm able to do stuff that I want to do for myself, obviously. But it's also creating income for me to be able to walk into these prisons and volunteer, because I tell people, I don't go once a month. No, I go every day. Why? Because that's how I show them that I'm serious. And that's how they take me serious.
So before I started this podcast, I had you on the schedule with a celebrity guest. But when I did talk to the celebrity guest, he's from Blood In, Blood Out. I'm not going to say whose name it is because I don't want to dox him. But this actor, we know each other. I was texting him and I sent Vic the text. This guy, when you talk about the people in Hollywood who are maybe the Hispanic people in this culture, they're into some kind of degenerate stuff. He was messaging me back saying, can we talk about my transformer stuff for men becoming women and all this? Oh, it's going to be boring if we're not going to talk about this. He was too obsessed with this stuff that was really degenerate and pervy stuff for me to have him on. He's an actor in Hollywood, but it would have been a great episode had he not been too degenerate to have you on. So that's why I think that all of us would have been putting a target on his back and just been attacking him. That's what this would have ended up in. That's why we only have you here. But originally, it was supposed to be you and an actor from that movie on this podcast. But because the degeneracy in Hollywood has gone too far, Vic can attest to this. I've sent him proof about this crazy stuff. So some of the celebrities that I do want to have on the podcast, they're too far gone, man. So it says a lot that somebody going through your history in your past is moving towards Christ when these people that have more money, more fame, more fortune, have all the opportunity to move toward Christ, and they're falling back into gayness. It's crazy. But I'm glad to have you on the podcast. If it's just you, that's better than just having you and another person that's anyways, I don't want to dive into that too much, but as a certified coach, JC, studio owner, a mentor, oh, this is a lot, a speaker, you now work in prevention, re-entry, and a youth outreach. See, already I'm going to have like 15 names for you already. Share the story of someone whose life changed through your work that keeps on going on tough days. How do you keep going through all of this? What keeps you going to all these prisons, starting programs? You're building a ranch, this national epidemic that you're trying to change. What keeps you going day to day?
It doesn't matter how I'm feeling. I get up every day at the same time. And if I wake up, that means I got another round left in me. I mean, that's pretty much how I look at it.
So you mean every day you wake up on this side of the dirt is a good day? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, I tell people, I don't wake up in a good mood every day. I'm not happy every day. I don't want to go to work every day. There's times that, I feel like being there. But, there's times that no, and that's why I tell people that's where my discipline kicks in, because I've been homeless. I've been in really bad situations, but, I still showed up every time. And that's what the people at the prison respect about me so much, even for the holidays, I'm lucky enough that my wife backs me up in everything that I do, She lets me lead. I am the head of the household, but at the same time, when I need to be, my chain needs to be pulled, she has the ability to pull my chain, because at the end of the day, if I'm going to listen, if I'm going to trust anybody, it's going to be my wife.
That's actually pretty base. That's actually pretty base. I think your wife should be able to give you that support, and she's a support role. I think that's extremely important. So, JC, looking back, so Vic, I'll tell you something about JC. If I didn't know JC before this day, and I just walked into an expo, if I didn't know any better, I'd be like, who is this fucking intimidating guy that's got like 20 people behind him looking like they just caught out the pen? It could shake me for my shoes any day. But it's just JC. He's at a booth. He's got a bunch of kids coming up. Hey, how's it going? Little kids going up to the booth, man. It was the most inspirational thing. These kids are looking up to JC. Like, you ever see El Diablo from the DC movies? This guy who turns into fire. Like, I was like, in real life, JC probably burned down your house. But he's the nicest guy that you've ever met. But this guy was involved with the cartels, like all this. And you would have never known that he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He probably give you the shirt off his back. Tell me if I'm lying, JC. If I'm lying, I'm fried. So, but JC, I have to ask you a question. What's one myth about gang life, cartel world, or prison that people get completely wrong on the outside?
One myth that people get wrong on the outside. Everybody pretends like they weren't scared. And that's the one thing that I'm transparent about. I was scared the whole time. No, I was scared the first day. I was scared the last day after the 17 years. It doesn't matter. I was scared. And I hear so many guys recording YouTube videos saying how tough they were and this and this and that. And I'm like, you don't need to pretend, man. A real man is a real man.
So you don't fake it. Your wife was right. She was like, nah, it's just, let me just call this guy out. And you're being transparent with your wife and upfront. I like that, man. So yeah, that's something that so you've said something, the same thing that Mike Tyson said. Mike Tyson was honest. He said the same thing you said. I'm terrified before I get in the ring, but the closer I go to the ring, the less afraid I am. And then I'm in the ring, and now all of a sudden I can conquer. It sounds like the same thing that the greats before you had uttered, the same thing. Only you have fought life. You fought the streets. You fought the cartel. You fought everything else. You've even fought your inner demons. So you talk about preventing men from becoming inmates and stopping the return cycle. What practical advice would you give a young person today who feels trapped in the circumstances that you were? What advice would you give that man?
I mean, your habits are your future. You know, I tell people all the time. It's what I teach at the prisons. You know, one thing at a time. Us people, when we want to change or do things, we try to change 10, 20 things at one time, and it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's a simple exercise that I call holding the line, uh, where you do the same habit for the next 60 days without breaking it. Like if it's brushing your teeth, because some people don't like to brush their teeth, like me. So, like it's just certain little habits, but focusing on that one habit and just doing it no matter what, like holding the line, like something basic. It's really basic stuff, man.
So if you could speak, JC, to your younger self, like if you could take a time machine and go back to the JC at age 9 or maybe even 16, what would you say to that person? What would you tell them now?
Honestly, I used to be really mad at God, really mad at like life because of everything that I experienced as a kid. I felt like my childhood was like stolen from me, But if I had anything to say to that kid, I would tell him, don't trip, because everything that you went through is going to be used for a purpose. Like you're going to be all right, because obviously I was strong enough to take it.
Wow, that's pretty deep. Wow, that is crazy. Vic, do you have any questions you want to ask?
Yeah. How did you leave the cartel, and is it like an easy thing to do? Like, how did you leave?
You don't tell on nobody. You don't take no money that's not yours, and you just be a stand-up man, and you'll be all right.
No, I mean they're just let you leave if you don't snitch on nobody and take money. They just say you can go if you want.
Well, the thing is, when I was working, it was like the golden era. It was when a lot of the cartels were working with one another. There wasn't a lot of murders. There was murders, but it was if you got too smart. Other than that, it was the golden era. Everybody was making money. You didn't have to pick sides. It was a very different time. So I got to walk away before it got really dangerous.
Oh, so there was a time when they switched maybe to where they just had a different standard. Like if you got to leave, you got to pull off this hard job or you got to get jumped out. None of that stuff. It was like before all that stuff changed or what?
No, I tell people, the cartels are very different to compare to gangs or other like criminal organizations, because a lot of the cartels are families. They've been around for a long time. It's why they're in control. Like they just didn't I just one day started doing it. No, they've been in control for a long time. These are all families that have been doing it. So they're ran a little bit different. And people like myself, that I was blessed by having God, protected me most of my life. I was lucky enough to have a gift to win people over, and I won a lot of people over that respect me and love me, because it's different. It's different when people love you.
Okay, now I have a question. Being in the cartel, like in the time that you were in, as long as it's like not too R-rated, what for YouTube, which is like our terms of service, what was the worst thing that you've seen in the cartels?
I mean, there was a lot of death, but I always tell people the worst thing that I seen was that scene that they put it on the National Geographic. The National Geographic did a story on my life. It's called Narco Neverland. It's on the that TV show Locked Up Abroad. Um, but there was an episode there where a child molester, a pedophile, went into the prison, and everybody, got a hold of him. And by the time they were done, they had beat him so bad that he had a broom up his butt. It looked like a cartoon. It didn't look real to me. To this day, like I see it still to this day, but it was something that really changed me to see
Wait,
that.
JC,
That
you
was the
saw
worst.
this? You saw this in real life? You saw this person?
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's just insane.
Well, that's the
I
thing about prisons. Prisons in Mexico, you know, they don't separate you. Like if you're like
yeah,
if you're, they still throw you into general population and they let them do whatever they got to do with you. And that
that's
guy
crazy.
that was there, he had raped a 2-year-old a baby.
Oh
You
shit.
know,
Oh yeah.
so they
I'm not against. I'm
they
not against that guy facing justice at all.
Yeah,
Like if you,
exactly.
so
yeah, you
they
deserve
were, they were waiting for him. You know.
prison justice. I believe
Yeah.
that the court of public opinion is going to happen. The town square is going to judge him, and that's what's going to happen. Good men are going to deal with bad. Even bad men are going to deal with worse men. And I mean, that's crazy. I just had to ask that real quick. But so I do have a question though. Your podcast and platforms share raw stories of transformation, JC. I've seen a couple of these. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from interviewing others who walk the dark paths to light from other people? What's the biggest lesson have you learned from interviewing other people too?
I mean, honestly, it was when I interviewed that Navy SEAL from San Diego, just to spend the day with him and interview him and see how much alike we were, you know, because it was my dream as a little kid to go into the military. You know, I wanted to be a Marine. For some reason, I was very patriotic. I wanted to serve my country. I think I just wanted to kill people. It's like when I interviewed him and everything, and we spent time together, like I realized how much we were alike, you know, and the cool story was that he had listened to my story while he was in the barracks. And he was like, man, he told all his other Navy SEAL buddies, hey, you gotta listen to this guy's story. And he, by the time he was leaving, he was like, you would have been an awesome Marine. And I was like, man, that was like a gift for my heart.
That's awesome. That's awesome
Yeah.
to hear that because he's confirming what you wanted the whole time. It's like, I think that because Rich, I have a couple of videos of me and Rich, and we kind of wrapped up because I think I was signing autographs at the Olympia at a different booth, and then he was at a different booth. I would come over to his booth and steal food from him all the time. They would get pissed, but I still food would come over. And then afterwards we wrapped it up and we did a video together saying we're hungry, our feet are tired, and we're going to go eat. And then we're going to train. And I'm like, we're going to train after being on our feet all day. And he didn't care. He was so disciplined. I was like, whatever, I guess I'm going to eat and train with Rich. But so Rich Piana, just a quick story. I was out there signing autographs at a grand opening at some store, and they had Rich Piana and me booked at the same grand opening. And after doing this, we shot a video, and that's still on my YouTube channel. He said, hey guys, I'm here with Martae. Martae's going to do the Dallas Europa here. He's getting ready, looking big and wide. I'm going to roll down to Phoenix, Arizona and shoot a video with him training arms. And then we wrapped up the video real quick. He just made an announcement. He's going to train with me, and we're going to shoot the workout video. He ended up passing away 6 days later. I didn't even know this was going to happen. So we don't know when our time's going to go. I was just with him 6 days, and next thing you know, boom. I couldn't text him no more. I'm looking at messages between me and him, and it just became empty. You saw a lot of death around you the whole time with the cartel, prison, things like this. And I'm pretty sure that you're steering people away from this, and you want better for society. So for anybody listening who feels that their story is too broken for redemption, what hope or next step would you offer them based on your journey from Chicago streets to cartel to prisons to purpose? What hope would you give these people?
Honestly, you know, it's never too late to humble yourself. And I tell people the best exercise in bodybuilding, any kind of strength training exercise is getting on your knees. Getting on your knees and just being humble, man. Like I tell people, it's the number one thing that's changing my life every morning. You know, I get up, I go to the floor, and I'm just grateful and humble to be here. Because I shouldn't be here right now. I shouldn't even be doing this podcast. I should either be dead or doing a life sentence. But for some reason, God, spared me, and I have that responsibility to share what was given to me for free to other men that are blind, that are blind just to how I was blind.
So we're going to wrap this up in about 10 minutes because I know you got to go, because I know you're disciplined. You probably have a crazy schedule ahead of you. And I could barely pull this guy aside for one day real quick. The guy's being pulled left and right with everything that he's got going on in the demands. So I do want to ask a question, JC. So do you think that this woke ideology that people have, do you think that gives people excuses to hold them back more than your disciplined and faith-based approach? Do you see that right now? A lot of men that are like woke or maybe creating too many excuses today. Do you see that a lot with a lot of young men?
What's that saying? How they say it? Good time creates weak men. Hard time creates I don't want to insult nobody.
No, you can say it. We're pretty transparent here. We're open here. You can say what's on your mind.
Yeah.
So, we live in a time where it's very there's a lot of men living in victim mentality, kind of selfless lifestyles where they'll have babies and like they want to be single, and it's just like it's a mess, and I'm not saying that because I'm perfect. I'm saying that because I'm barely picking up the pieces of like my manhood, I call it, like my children. I have 5 kids, that I had to reconcile my relationship with. And the more better it gets, the more I feel like a man inside. Does that make any sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think accountability isn't going to be your kryptonite. It's Superman's kryptonite to have kryptonite weaken him. But I think that when you hold people accountable, sometimes some people run away from that. They don't know what that's like. They run away from it. And I think that you're less masculine when you don't deal with your responsibility.
And I need to be able to hold other men accountable. Like that's the biggest thing, is that another man should, like, I have people that hold me accountable that I trust, that I know are there to hold me accountable, because I know myself sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, JC, I have 2 more questions. So one question, does your comeback prove personal hard work beats government handouts for places like Chicago Southside? Does hard work beat handout any day? Or do you disagree with that?
I mean, hard work tastes sweeter at the end, because you're either going to prove them right or wrong, man. I always like, either way, they're going to be, right or wrong. So like my smile, and it's funny that you say it today, because today when I got to the studio, I smiled and I was like, man, look at my life today. Look at how blessed I am. I had my Starbucks coffee on me. I was like, I'm living life, man. Like,
JC, you bougie now because you got Starbucks? That's what we do. JC's bougie now.
I got the star. What is it called? The app on my phone.
Oh yeah.
You turn
get the rewards.
Crazy, bro. You got the white girl drink and everything. That's crazy, bro. All right. One last question, real quick. Do you think censorship silences street truth preachers like you, or does it force you to fight harder? Because I know there's a lot of censorship right now because people are too sensitive right now to hear certain things, and you should tone it down. Does that make you want to fight harder, or do you think censorship is going to take control over everything and shut us all up?
I always tell people like this. Look, I don't announce to nobody that I'm a Christian. I just walk the walk, talk the talk, and eventually people ask me. I don't need to be censored. I don't need to be like told what to say. Like, I let my walk do the speaking, and I tell people it's why I'm transparent. It's why I keep it real. And some people are okay with it, and some people are not. But that's my answer to that, man.
Man, that's awesome, because I do the same thing. I don't tell people I'm Christian. I do debates all the time. And these debates I do with these liberals, these feminists, and other people, I don't tell them, hey, I'm a Christian and you should do this. And Psalms 23 says, I don't do any of that stuff. What I do is tell them like a common sense approach. I use a lot of common sense. And for some reason, common sense hurts a lot of people's heads and makes their head hurt because it's just too grounded. It's too like a man should be a man, a woman should be a woman. And I think nowadays we've lost our place. We've lost our place in society. And I think there's a place for you in society because right now, a lot of people who are sensitive would say that you're toxic. That's what they would say because maybe they're too sensitive.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's truth hurts people sometimes, and we have ourselves to blame. Like I tell people, it's why I work so much because like I let the culture change me for a long time. I used to let the world dictate how I was, how I treated people. Now I let God tell me how to do that. So like, it's why I work so hard, man, because I need to go in there and do some work.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to have to carry this cross for the rest of my life. Like, I don't think I pray and then it's all good and it's all done. I think that for me personally, I have to wake up every day and do this. Like, I'm pretty sure you say the same thing. It doesn't stop because we're grown-ass men with too much common sense in a world that is too sensitive. And these feminized men out here would look at you and they would say, oh, that's toxic masculinity. Look at JC. He thinks he's tough and he thinks he's all badass because he's got prison tats just because he did time. You would hear this. If you can read people's mind, that's probably what they would say. In our culture, they take manhood away from people. And I'm not saying through, them taking this like physically. No, when you look at movies nowadays, remember the movie Predator back in the day when all these buff men, it was just men. There weren't no women that you had to save. These men worked out. They trained. They were disciplined men that were special forces. They had to go destroy a predator, an alien that was hunting them. I think nowadays, if they had this movie, they would say it's too toxic. Your story, that even if you say it right now, would sound toxic to these very soft men. They wouldn't want to hear this, and they'd probably go live a soft life, whatever life that is. But the reason why I wanted you on this podcast is because your life is not only very based, it's grounded in Christ, and you don't need to say that you're Christian to anybody. But I appreciate your time on this podcast because a lot of people need to hear this story. We need to get the story out here, and we need to let more people know about your program, Wrong to Strong, and how you're trying to change the system of the penitentiary people who are cycling over and over again in and out. I think that's a very good thing that you're doing, and I appreciate it a lot.
I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Yeah, for sure, man. Any last thing you want to tell the audience out there before we wrap everything up? Because I know we're a little bit over time right now.
Honestly, it's never too late, guys. It's never too late. If I could say anything is man, hope and smiling when there's nothing to smile about will get you through some of the toughest days.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, one last thing. We brought this up beforehand. I remember you knew about me before I knew about you. What you had knew about me before. Where did you discover me at?
Well, I was getting ready to come home, and I was all into fitness because I had just gotten my personal training certificate while I was in prison. And this is when I had cut off a piece of a magazine that had the 5% thing on there, and I had seen that you were up and coming. I used to get all the muscle magazines in there. I had all the every kind of bodybuilding magazine. I didn't get them delivered, but since I was someone on the yard, the people that got them delivered let me read them. So yeah, that's where I saw you. So I thought it was pretty cool when I met you in person. You know what I mean? I got to meet Rich. I got to meet a lot of the people that, even I had a podcast with Project Pat last month. And, I used to listen to his music when I got home from prison.
That's
so it's really cool to see what God is doing.
That's cool, man. Project Pat. I remember growing up listening to him. He had all this DJ music. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, man, I appreciate you being on the podcast. I've known you for quite some time in and out of my life, but I knew that it was around gym culture, and I knew that you had a strong, compelling story to tell. And now you're like this fitness and motivational mindset national phenomenon that's happening right now. nationwide, your program's taking off, and it's crazy. So you're not only a massive presence that we need in this world, but you can spark the change, which you've already done. And I think a lot of men and people should know more about your program. That's why I wanted to host you on the podcast, to put the word out here, man. It's good. I think that your change can actually provoke a lot of people from moving back into the ways of becoming prison inmates again and incarcerated individuals. I think moving away from this is good, and your presence here on this existence is amazing. I appreciate your presence on the platform and showing up, and thank you for giving us your time today too. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you guys.
Anything else you want to ask Vic, or?
No, I pretty much just want to, say the same thing. It's always great to hear people with your story were such a dark background, but you made something of yourself, and you're doing a lot of good work, man. So keep up the great work, dude. And it was a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you, Vic. Thank you, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And maybe I could put you through hell once again through a training session. Maybe that'll because I'm planning on getting back in the pro ranks and competing one last time. I'm just going to bring it back. I'm going to try to qualify for the Olympia either probably next year. I'm looking at next year. So I got to coach again. I'm training. I'm eating this stupid diet again and all. You know how the discipline is. But I got to get back into this. Maybe we can get a session.
If you're local, let's do it together.
Yeah, maybe we'll go through hell one session again, and maybe I can get you to puke. That's my challenge. Maybe I can get you to go to the parking lot and puke a little bit, because I know I even fear my own training sessions. So, yeah, let's do it. We'll be in contact. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode 5 of the Woke Autopsy podcast, where we cover a lot of the real basic common sense and interview some of these lives that we have that are really impactful to society and making real change and progress towards the masses. JC, I appreciate your presence. Thank you for your time and energy being on the podcast. And I'll see you later, man. Take care, man.
See you later, JC.
Later.
All right. Take care, man.
Take care, brother.
Yeah, that was great, man. JC's an amazing, controversial, compelling, walking story. Just crazy. I had to do the interview because everybody across the nation who has been involved in cartels, like he had the thing on the Discovery Channel. He has been interviewed by a lot of hip hop elites, people like this. It's just insane. The guy's got a national campaign and everything. I was like, there's no way that I'm not having this guy on the podcast. But I had to bring him on, Vic. We had to do an interview. The guy's he's got a crazy story. We only the tip of the iceberg on this too. So
yeah, no, I bet. I mean, I know he's probably, having been to not only both an American and the Mexican prison system, but also just being involved with the cartels. Seems like he has a ton of stories to share. But that was crazy, though, how he said that he'd rather go back to, if he had to do one, he'd do a Mexican prison over American. I was like, whoa, crazy. But all right.
I had to ask him. I was like, so what is your rationale to being in a Mexican prison? And I was like, conjugal visits. He was like, but then there's more. He gave me a general concept of like maybe there's more leeway because of the money, but I guess so. But I mean, I get a sense like naturally without me hearing JC, I'd be like, oh, it's definitely way more dangerous than a Mexican prison.
Yeah.
It's like, but when he explained it, I was like, it's hard to refute this when you have a guy that's been in there for a long time and then been in the prisons here. And it's like, how am I going to tell him he's wrong about the Mexican prison?
Exactly.
I'm like, so I'm on the outside looking in. I'm the ignorant one here out of everything else. Like, so, I mean, that was a very interesting interview. The next guest next week is going to be really interesting. They've got a crazy story as well, too. I'll just say this without giving up who the guest is next week. They've represented the U.S. in battling other nations on the grand scale. I'll just say this. That's a very general thing. I've alluded to what this was, the guest was before we even got here, but I think that sums it up. But yeah.
Yeah, it should be really good, man. I mean, every guest we've had on has been a banger so far, man. You know, you're bringing on these very interesting people. Not only that too, but they're all, they're all Christian men and stuff, all with great stories, interesting stories to share, and for everybody to learn from, man. So I'm excited for next week's episode.
Well, there's the one actor that I want to bring in who's got a movie coming out. I think it's number 4 he's coming out with. Extremely liberal. He's got severe TDS, but I do want to bring him on because there's no way. I'm just going to tell you right now, Vic, it's going to be very tough to not want to debate the shit out of this guy. But I'm just like, nah, I have to hold it back because I want to be able to get this guy on the podcast long enough. Everybody knows who this guy is. If you're a follower of this genre of movie, you automatically know who the hell this guy is. And you're going to be like, Martae, how did you get this guy on the podcast? But my question is, like, how am I holding my tongue so long with this guy on the podcast and not either refuting some of his beliefs or just the Hollywood elite that I have access to? I'm trying to see if I can get him on the podcast. But if you're talking about Transformers and stuff and you're saying it's boring without having Transformers, I'm not bringing you on. That's my line draw. That was the person I sent you the evidence of.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't. There's no way I could be like, I can rationalize that mindset. That's too crazy. Like, Vic, I have my limits. I'm just going to say that right now. So,
yeah, I mean, if we do have him on and it comes to it, hey, look, I could be your monitor. It's like debate right now. Boom. But
I'm not trying to debate this guy. No, he's going to get. I think some of the Hollywood elite that I know that I want to have on the podcast or people that are associated with this are too far gone. Like, they would actually enjoy this. They would be a sadomasochist when it comes to debate. Oh, yes, tell me more about the Transformers and how they're wrong. And it's like he'd lean into that. I'd be so grossed out. I'd be like, no, bro, I can do everything. I'm out. Like, that's how he sounds. So I'm like, I'm not inviting that guest on the podcast because he's too far gone. I'll bring on like more of the celebrity guests that I have that aren't too far gone. Maybe I'll have another conversation with him and tell him because that was too crazy. I'm going to have another conversation. See, maybe I can bring it back on. I don't know. But also the other guy, the Mexican guy who plays the bad guy in all the other movies that we talked about.
Yeah. I'm
going to see if he can come on, but he's going to clash with the other guy that was from that old school movie that we talked about. Yeah, I know I'm in generalities here because I don't want to say on YouTube who the guests are, but because of the whole issue that we brought up on the Discord about him and the leaders of the gang before this movie came out, I don't know if I can have him in the same room because that would be a very interesting podcast. Maybe that could be a good one.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you about Discord to see if this will happen because I knew that last week's guest there was a bit of controversy because 50 Cent, I'll say this, 50 Cent and Rick Ross are kind of at war right now. So the two guests that are associated with these two individuals that I want to bring on, the no-show and the person that wanted to be on too, would it be on if he was going to be on? So I had to kind of like moderate some beef, some hip hop beat, and I'm like, this is insane. I'm just trying to run a show and we're neutral moderators here. Mm-hmm. Like you guys should be able to exist in one room. We're all grown men, but I guess not because this hip hop beef is whatever. But anyways, the show must go on, Vic. Another good episode, man. I appreciate your time being my co-host, man. You've been a pretty good co-host so far, but I appreciate you so far.
Yeah, no problem, man. No, this has been I've been having a blast. Like I said, the people you've been bringing on have all been great so far, and I like listening to these people's stories. I like just sitting back and listening. And I'm like, damn, dude, like these people have had like crazy lives, and like I said, I think a lot of people could learn from these people.
I will say that I'm going to have to edit a lot of the PDF words and great words. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was cringing inside when he kept saying, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to go back and edit all this. That's a lot of work that but you know what? It's worth it. I'm just going to have to super heavily edit all this stuff that he was saying. But when it comes down to the crux of things, like the guy, like there's a lot of people that know him that are celebrities and people like that. But I constantly want to bring on people who have compelling stories. But not just this, but people that you wouldn't be caught in the same room with unless you know somebody. Like there's no way you're talking to JC unless you know somebody because you're not talking to him because he's constantly surrounded by 10 people who look like they just got out. Like, you're not approaching him and talking to him, but me, everybody knows, like, these people know who I am. Like, so he knew about me before he got out of prison because I was in all kinds of fitness magazines and all this other stuff and advertisements. Mind you, my image was used without my permission so many times in the fitness industry. It was ridiculous. So when people say that, oh, you were on this website, that was a DGen website, you put it on there. I'm like, you don't think people do that in that industry too? So stupid.
Exactly.
Like,
It's
so
ridiculous. Stupid. Going back to the whole editing, if you want, because I use a website that I pay for, like a website that you could run the file and it'll take out all the words that you want to take out. If you want, I could do that, and then I could send you a copy of that so you could upload that. You
don't even have to send it to me. If you can edit it, post it on your channel, and I'll rip it off of that.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
I'll send you the cover and stuff and all that stuff with JC on the front. Mm-hmm. Next week's episode is going to be a banger. I'll get with you on Discord and tell you who exactly this is. You're going to be like, "Wow, this is crazy." But I wanted to hold a series that was different because everybody's doing debate reviews. No knock against you. Everybody's either doing those or debates, or they're doing inside my own bubble, and we're only talking to people that you know. And I'm like, no. Screw all that. Let's change the recipe and change the whole direction. We need to do something different that nobody else is doing. That's why I wanted to do this podcast, because I wanted to bring some fresh, new ideas and concepts here and bring people that aren't associated with and don't know what a panelverse is, or they don't even know what any of this stuff is, because they're out there functioning at some high level. Either they're one of the elites or in pro sports, pro fighting, acting, or something else like that. JC is a hodgepodge of all this stuff, actually, and also mixed in with a lot of these people in hip hop too. It's just crazy. But I just wanted to bring in fresh people that weren't associated with any of this Boyd stuff, these Boyd activities, and bring them in here, because I think that we do need fresh faces and fresh people, and these people need to be introduced to our people. And I think that's how you grow something brand new, by bringing fresh ideas and concepts onto the front of our format. I think that this is a good idea. So
I think it is, man. I think it's a really good idea, dude. So I'm excited. I'm excited for next week's guests. And yeah, man, I'm down for all of it.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. So if any of you guys want to send any donations, by the way, if you guys send Vic a donation to his channel right now, you guys who are watching, every donation that you send, your testosterone as a man goes up 10%. So for every woman that sends in a donation, your man's testosterone goes up 20%. Just going to let you know right now, scientifically, you could do the research. I haven't proven it, but I'm pretty sure scientifically that's grounded somewhere, someplace.
I'm sure there's some science behind it, I'm sure that's how it works.
Yeah, there's some science behind that. Boost your testosterone. Send Cool Vic either a donation, a dono. Send him donos right now. And also that keeps the lights on, and it keeps this program running, so I can bring more celebrity guests onto the panel as well too. And with that, Vic, I'll bid you adieu, because I know you got your traditional family that you have to go to and your activities and all that stuff. I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Hell yeah, Martae. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
And that was another episode of Woke Autopsy. Stay tuned for next week's episode, where we have a spectacular guest waiting for you right now, and they've got some stories for you. Not only do they represent the United States, but they'll literally go to war for you in their own special way. And that's it. Christ is God. We'll wrap this up. God. You guys take care. And we're out.
Take care, everybody. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there I am. What'd you guys think about that? I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, he's been bringing on bangers of guests, crazy. That guy JC, he was in the cartels, he's been in prisons, he turned his whole life around. Now he's trying to get other men in similar situations as him on the right track, doing God's work. So that was a really good interview there. Appreciate doing it. Thank you very much, Bandit, for the $2. Just 10%. Yeah, I guess just 10%. I don't know. Maybe it'll go up even more. If you send more, who knows? By the way, I would suggest also sending Martae some donos if he has. I don't know if he's still on, but if he has a Cash App link, because I know he can't get super chats because of YouTube, but I think he has a Cash App. So send some love to him too. Hey, thank you very much, Trench Deacon. Good to see you, brother. 07 to you too, brother. Thank you very much for the $10. And thank you very much, Jason Blaze It, for the $5. Christ is King. Hell yeah. Christ is indeed King. Christ is God. Thank you very much, guys, for the super chats. Let me look to see who's live. I did a double today. I had my own stream, and then I did Martae's. I did the woke autopsy. Yeah, I think Martae. Yeah, Martae finished. I'm gonna raid you over to Rob Noor. Let me raid you over to Rob. Rob's hat is awesome. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is awesome. Pabst golf team. Damn type. Good to see Alishness. Yeah, I understand your band there. Yeah, kind of figure. Not surprised, but good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. All right. Yeah. So I'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Don't know what time, but you'll see me tomorrow. Hope you guys had a fun time. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good and blessed rest of your evening. Thank you to everybody that donated tonight. Hail victors and Christ is God. See you guys back here tomorrow. Take care. Tell Rob I said hi. Make sure you like the stream and send love to Rob as well.